It's an obsession, and it is an obsession that hurts absolutely no one. And you know what? At least I'm using it for a good cause. As I'm helping the paramedics this semester, one thing became very apparent. ECG interpretation scares the living crap out of them, and no one could get it. Hi, my name is Ashlyn. I'm a paramedic, and I would love to tell you my foolproof way on how to read an ECG. Also, Erin, if you're watching, I still have this. We made these the very first day of paramedic school. Insert baby Ashlyn here. All right, so you have your nice and beautiful 12 lead. You have no idea what you're looking at. You're gonna ask yourself 5 questions, okay? The first one, is it fast or is it slow? Is it anywhere from 60 to 100 beats a minute? Is it below 60 or is it above 100? Number 2, is it irregular or regular? Do I have to get my calipers out and actually measure? Do the complexes march out equally? If you don't have calipers, it's fine. I don't either. But if I see any irregularities, if my complexes are not even, if I see little clusters of complexes, do I see any weird spaces between them? Number 3, is it wide or is it narrow? For this, you're going to be looking at the QRS complex. I'm going to be nice and put this box up here because I have a very hard time measuring in the 0.1, 0.2 millisecond type thing. I measure in boxes, okay? To be considered narrow, it has to be equal to or under 0.08 seconds or 2 little boxes. Ideally, it's probably under that. It's probably about a box. To be considered wide, we're going to be equal to or greater than 0.12 seconds or 3 big boxes. Step 4, and this one is important because you can eliminate so many rhythms with this one question. Is there a P wave? Is it upright? Is it inverted? How does it look? If we have P waves, cool. We're probably sinus in origin, especially if it's upright. But if you have a P wave and it's inverted, then it might be a junctional rhythm. If you don't have a P wave at all, well, you know it's not sinus. If you have a P wave, let's go ahead and go to step 5 and look at the PR interval. How long is it? A normal PR interval is really anywhere from like 0.12 to 0.16 seconds, or at least 3 little boxes. Anything bigger than that is probably prolonged PR. And if you have 1 big box, that's your entire PR interval, you might have a 1st-degree heart block. That is it. That is all. That is the 5 easy steps to finding your rhythm. Now, since I know there's going to be those paramedics, those nurses, those doctors, those, oh my God, you didn't talk about the J wave, J point, T wave, ST segment abnormalities. You didn't talk about delta waves, bundle branch blocks. Duh, I didn't. Because all of those things, you're still going to have an underlying rhythm. I might have ST segment changes, but do I have sinus with ST elevation or depression, or do I have a junctional with ST elevation or depression? You have to know the underlying rhythm. So let's apply this. I'll do this quickly because this video is already long. Here's the rhythm. It's 2-3 AVF. That's as close as I could get to it to where you can see everything. A couple different ways you can do this. You can obviously look at Doc in the Box. Doc in the Box tells you what the rate is, or you can use the box method. The box method, I'm going to flash it right here. If you don't know what it is, it's actually very helpful, especially if this part rips off and then you're like, oh, I'm screwed. And Doc in the Box says 58 beats per minute, so this is actually a little slow. Is this regular or irregular? I don't have my calipers or anything, but this looks pretty regular to me. Is this wide or is this narrow? This is actually borderline wide. And the way I say borderline is because we are cusping about 2.5 boxes on my complexes. And as we talked about, to be considered wide, it's going to be 3 little boxes. So far, we have figured out it's a little slow, it is regular, and it's borderline wide. All right, next, my most important question, do I have P waves? This one is actually really hard to see because you can't really tell if that's the baseline or if that's the P wave. So that means I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna flash a couple more pictures on the screen right here of your V leads, and I can march out P waves in some of these leads. Like in lead 1, I do see a very distinct P wave in some of them. But the way that I do this is if I can't march out my P waves all the way down, then I don't consider it a P wave. As my teacher would always tell me, don't make up P waves. So I am actually going to say no, this does not have P waves. Now this rhythm could get me in a lot of trouble. There's probably going to be a lot of arguments with it, but if I cannot see a P wave in every single lead, then there probably isn't any. Yes, I can see them very distinctly in lead 1, but I can barely march them out in lead 3. Same with your V leads. I can barely march them out in some of these leads. Look at V1. I can't even see them. And lastly, my PR interval. Well, some of them, I don't have a PR interval. And the ones that I do, it looks pretty normal. So this is either a sinus bradycardia or it is a junctional rhythm. Sinus bradycardia, because if you're arguing and it does have a P wave, you're at a slower rhythm of 58, so it is sinus bradycardia. If it does not have a P wave, you're actually sitting at a junctional rhythm. It's almost like all of this information should be on a badge reel. That is all. Have a good shift.